Since I last updated the House, the United States has struck 3 Iranian nuclear sites at Esfahan, Natanz and Fordo. Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has said their action was intentionally limited. Britain was not involved in these strikes, just as Britain was not involved in Israel's operations. But Britain has long had concerns about Iran's nuclear program. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. The United States has now taken action to alleviate that threat. A nuclear-armed Iran would endanger the immediate region and threaten the global community. This is a perilous moment in the Middle East, Madam Deputy Speaker. Waves of strikes between Israel and Iran have now lasted for 10 days, continuing overnight. I know the whole House will have in their thoughts the many civilians impacted by the fighting. I can confirm today this includes 1 British national injured in Israel. We've reached out to offer consular support. Madam Deputy Speaker, Iran has consistently failed to reassure the world that it was not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Mr. Speaker, as we respond to this fast-moving situation, our first priority remains the welfare of British nationals in Iran and Israel and our staff on the ground. Our crisis teams in London and the region have been working round the clock. Israel has put restrictions on its airspace since Friday the 13th of June. The British Embassy in Tel Aviv and British Consulate in Jerusalem are open. All our diplomats remain in place, supporting British nationals. And we have bolstered the Embassy in Tel Aviv with a rapid deployment team from the UK. We have been working closely with the Israeli authorities to prepare flights to evacuate vulnerable British nationals and their dependents. Yesterday, we launched a booking portal for British nationals. Today, as soon as it was possible to enter airspace. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I can confirm to the House that a Royal Air Force A400 has flown in to Tel Aviv and taken 63 British nationals and their dependents to Cyprus, from where they will be brought home this evening. Further flights will follow in the coming days, security allowing. We will prioritise those with greatest need and contact those allocated a seat directly. We will send updates on future flights to all British nationals registered with the Foreign Office, and I encourage all British nationals still in Israel and the occupied territories to register their presence so they receive our updates.
2 weeks ago, the IAEA produced a report that was damning on the Iranian regime. Iran was not cooperating, breaching its obligations, and had over 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%, far beyond any level needed for a civilian nuclear program, and enough material to create at least 9 nuclear devices. Their nuclear facilities are buried deep underground to hide their program, and all this from a despotic, authoritarian regime that represses and tortures its own people. It's committed to the annihilation of Israel, the world's only Jewish state, and is responsible for so much of the suffering in the region through its sponsorship of terrorist proxies. It is supporting Putin in its illegal war against Ukraine and is involved in plots and activities to undermine our national security here at home on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, it is for these reasons and many, many more that the Iranian regime must never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. That is why we stand with those working to stop them. As His Majesty's opposition, the House will know that we will always put the defence and security of our country first. And that's why we will work constructively with the government to secure the protection of British people and our national interests. We will support the government when they're doing the right thing, but also question, challenge and press ministers to go further when we think more needs to be done to safeguard our interests.
I don't think Israel, frankly, had any choice as Iran moves closer and closer to nuclear weapon capability, and as Iran clearly states, they want to wipe Israel and its people off the face of the map. I don't think they had any choice at all. I am pleased that the Americans have intervened. Generally, I'm against military interventions. I was vehemently opposed to what happened in Libya. I was strongly opposed to what happened in Iraq 20 years ago. And I've always thought that going for regime change was a really very dangerous policy, because you don't know what is going to follow. In this case, this Iranian regime, brutal, evil, they've been there for 4 decades, and I still find it actually quite difficult to believe that Obama, the European Union, and of course the ever-reliable British Foreign Office got all of this completely and utterly wrong with the JCPOA agreement just over a decade ago, which just simply allowed tens of billions of dollars to be freed up for the Iranians, which they've used to fund the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and anybody else that intends to cause grief. So I hope and believe that the American reports are right and that Iran no longer has nuclear capability, and we'll see what comes after that. Perhaps the only surprise is the only person in the country who didn't seem to know the Americans were about to do something was the British Prime Minister himself, who appears to be totally dumbfounded by the whole thing, and says there should be de-escalation, whilst in the next sentence saying Iran should not have nuclear capability. We'll look forward to the Prime Minister explaining to the House of Commons this afternoon exactly what the British position is.
Well, we have believed for a long time that Iran should never be able to develop a nuclear weapon, and that's why the US took the action that it took at the weekend. The Prime Minister spoke to President Donald Trump on the phone last night to discuss next steps, and we all agree, the US, the UK and our allies, that Iran now needs to get back to the negotiating table, and that we want to see a de-escalation, because an escalation of the conflict in the Middle East is in no one's interests.
Was America's attack on Iran illegal?
Well, it's up to the US to make that case. We weren't involved in those actions, and of course we would never comment on the legal advice that the government receives.